with a lot of graffiti over the last
I'm sure
couple
ours
of
is.
months.
I'm sure ours is not as decorative and.
No, ours is pretty pedestrian in comparison with more urban graffiti.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Bill. Also, I love that your dog is with us.
Yeah,
He's really adorable.
I always have that one up, even when I'm on this national committee, even when I'm on with like several hundred people, I have that up.
Really.
Everybody else has professional
judgmental.
pictures of themselves, like smiling into the camera. It's like, no, that's stupid. That's stupid.
It's too predictable, right? Hi, Joanna.
Good morning. Or no, where are we? Afternoon, evening.
And a general good day to you too.
Filter. And I actually, I haven't had dinner yet, so I may go, give you a scenic photo and.
Yeah, I mean, yes, don't feel shy, Joanna.
I'm going for my liquid diet. I'll be right back.
Okay, yep.
No, it's been one of those days.
Trust
I'm
me.
not saving lives, but.
I was wolfing down a sandwich during our 1 o'clock. So, and that was the last time I ate.
Yeah.
Oh. I think it must be Peter's phone. Hey, Julia.
Yep.
I am going to ask you to let me share the screen for the first item on the agenda, which is the electric aggregation piece, because I have a quick PowerPoint slide. slides I'm gonna run the select board through in the community.
All right. I just made you co-host, so you should
Thank
be
you.
able to,
Thank
you have that little green thing down there now?
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
thanks. Great.
That was some dense reading, Julia.
I'm so sorry. I mean, I have been embedded in the document, Joanna, for the better part of 4 months, and I'm the problem is the statute is so specific about what needs to be included that you're really writing a document for the Public Utilities Commission, not for the general public's use. And
FAQs were good though. I mean, and that helped understand it. I'm still
yeah.
a little confused of the pre-2017 and post-2017, kind of the difference between, what is it, NEM 1.0 and NEM 2.0.
Yeah, and the net
That'll be a tutorial,
Fortunately, there are people out there who understand it. I do not. And I'm sure that if I applied myself, I could figure it out, but it's complex, and that's why CPC&H will have people hired who actually know that whole marketplace. We don't have to know it for them.
But it's very cool. I have to admit that I think the whole concept is really cool.
That's the point, and pretty exciting. But boy, if you'd told me 18 months ago how much work we were gonna have to put into it, I might have said, could somebody else do that, please? And then we'll climb on board in 2.0, not 1.0. Once you get into it, you can't not see it through because you realize you're making a difference, right? So you got to keep plugging away at the energy policy, but slow going. And so complex that it puts a lot of people off. I mean, the general public just doesn't want to deal with it, and it's understandable. It's almost purposefully meant to be obtuse. So fascinating. We're at 7:31. We lost Peter. I wonder if he
Oh,
got.
I'm back.
Peter, do you need me to read the?
No, I got home, Julia. I made it home.
Okay, okay.
I'm ready to go. Are we,
We are ready. We're at
7:32.
7:31. The meeting's being recorded.
okay, I'll hit continue here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so let's get going. Julie, maybe this is the last time I'm gonna have to read this?
Yeah, Peter, I think it's highly unlikely. Well, I don't know. I think our next meeting will
I'm
be in
really
person.
gonna miss it. Let me tell you that. I'm really gonna miss it. Anyway, welcome to the Hanover Select Board meeting of June 7th, 2021. This is our statement of emergency procedures. Due to the COVID-19 emergency and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Hanover Select Board is authorized and now opens its June 7, 2021 public meeting virtually utilizing the Zoom webinar format. The public is welcome to access the Zoom meeting by following the directions on the Town of Hanover's website. For those wishing to dial in by phone, access only, dial 415-762-9988. Type in room ID 753-401-267 pound. Press pound a second time. It will ask you for another ID. Ignore it. For those participating by phone, once you are connected and the meeting has started, you will need to press *9 to raise your hand to be in the queue to speak. The moderator will unmute your connection to allow you to speak. Anyone abusing the Zoom webinar format will be immediately remuted and disconnected from the webinar meeting. For assistance with any problems joining the meeting, call 603-398-9399. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone and internet, utilizing conference calling for this electronic meeting. CATV is also streaming this meeting on their public access channel, and the meeting will also be available on your YouTube channel. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and they will remain unmuted along with the town manager. The public has access and to contemporaneously listen and participate in the public hearing portion of this meeting by pressing *9 to request to speak. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. Notice was also given of a mechanism by which a member of the public may alert the select board of a problem with access. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. A roll call vote. Board members, please respond by repeating your full name and stating whether there is anyone present in the room with you, a requirement of the right to know. Peter Christie, no one in the room.
Bill Garrity, no one in the room.
Joanna Whitcomb, no one in the room.
Nancy Carter, no one else in the room.
No, Strassius, I'm alone.
Okay, so let's get going. And the first order of business, as always, is public comment. Any public comment out there?
Yep, we have two. So the first one is Kari.
Kari, are you there?
Yes, I am here now. So I am interested in the status of the capital fund for bridges, and I don't see that exactly otherwise on the agenda tonight, but it is sort of closely related to the pre-town meeting hearing. Would it be appropriate for me to bring up my question at that point on the bridge capital reserve fund?
I think that's the time for it. Yes, Carrie.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then next up, we have, David.
Good evening. Hi, Peter.
Good evening.
As you know, you all decided to put a fence around my property 4 years ago and hold me hostage with my fence, with my driveway and my fire lane blocked. Took 25 months to get the fence opened up, and you still haven't apologized or acknowledged that you'd made a mistake and held people in violation of their civil rights for over 2 years. But I've called the police and the fire department constantly for the last 4 years, asking them to come down, investigate, and certify where my driveway is and where it has historically been, and they have refused. So last week there was an emergency down here, and I had to attend to the fellow who had collapsed. So I couldn't direct them in, but they were on the police and the fire department. Although they had been called, they weren't sure how to access my property. When they did come, a couple of the police officers told me they were wearing body cameras. So after they were here, one of the fellows, he went around with me and discussed with me that the proofs on my property, that where my driveway is, such as electrical poles and electrical meters where the cars had to drive to check my electricity bill for the last 80 years, things like that, little subtle things. So once he went back to the police department, I called the police department and asked for copies of that body cam. And the police chief told me it was forthcoming, but then changed his mind. He sent a request to the the town's lawyer, and got an opinion that he doesn't have to release it to me. Now, this videotape precisely shows that the police chief, along with you all, conspired to hold people in violation of their civil rights, and now he won't release it. It's just very unseemly when a police chief who's supposed to be upholding the law and protecting people is actually involved in hiding visual evidence of crimes that the town has committed. So I'm not sure, Peter, is your policy still not to answer questions from me?
It is.
Okay, well, it's nice to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none. I hereby open a hearing to review and consider adoption of proposed Hanover Community of Power Electric Aggregation Plan for referral to town meeting. I've opened the public hearing. Julia, you want to set this up?
Peter, what I'm going to do is share a PowerPoint presentation that I presented last week at a public meeting on Zoom together with April Salas and Yolanda Baumgartner. It just walks the public through the essence of what we're pursuing in terms of the electric aggregation plan and why. And I think it's helpful for people to understand a little bit of the background and the context, if that's okay with the board.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
I can.
Okay. Hang on one second, trying to get this. Okay.
Julia, can I ask how many people are with us tonight as visitors?
We have 7 people, Peter, plus the select board.
Okay, do you think those 7 are interested in this subject?
No, the only reason, I don't know that, but because this is recorded for
Okay.
CATV,
You
I
got it.
thought it would be helpful for the communities to see the
The only reason I
slideshow.
asked is because obviously the select board has been through this many times. But I agree, if it's being recorded, so let's get it out there in a clear way to the public.
Okay, trying to get this to, okay, so The aggregation plan and the Hanover community power concept is something that flows out of the 2017 town meeting adoption of our Ready for 100 commitment. So we're all about trying to meet the goals of that commitment. And the first goal is to transition the entire Hanover community to 100% renewably generated electricity by 2030. And so Sustainable Hanover and town staff have been heavily focused on trying to meet this goal because it comes sooner than the 2050 goal, which relates to heating fuel and transportation fuel. When we developed our plan for implementing the Ready for 100 commitment, we realized that from the standpoint of proceeding, we needed to tackle this 100% renewably generated electricity in 4 steps. The first step is that the town needed to lead by hitting the target first, and I'll quickly show a slide that sort of examines how we did that. Second is to implement programs like Solarize and Weatherize, which we have and which are ongoing. The third was to establish a municipal aggregation to enable community-wide purchase of renewably generated electricity. And the last of the 4 is to negotiate a long-term power purchase agreement for renewably generated electricity for all of our large consumers. So think Dartmouth College, Hypertherm, Kendall at Hanover, co-op food stores, etc. The number 1 goal of the town was essentially to walk the talk. And this is just a laundry list of all the things the town has done. I won't bore you with this because this is well known to the select board, but suffice it to say, town staff have been committed to walking the talk as of this August, September, when the second phase of the big ground mounted solar array on Grass Road is completed. We will be generating about 2.9 megawatts of the 3 megawatts of electricity we consume. So we're pretty darn close to the town using 100% renewably generated electricity. Solarize just launched its 3rd round in late May. The goal is to, by the end of this Solarize period, to have reached 250 households that would have solarized. Right now, we've got a little over 200 that have solarized in Hanover, so we're making progress. And then the Weatherize program, which is the energy efficiency program, is currently on hold because the state is not releasing any more NH Saves energy efficiency monies for the foreseeable future, and so we're on hold there. But we're working on lobbying the state to make that go away. The third is to launch this buying club, essentially, which is what a municipal aggregation is. It's enabled by state law called RSA 53E. The goal is to create an aggregation that involves Hanover retail electricity customers. That's you and me who are residential customers, plus small businesses, churches, nonprofits, small organizations, and then to be able to aggregate our demand to get access to much more affordable 100% green power. And then the 4th goal, as I said, is to shift our big consumers to long-term power purchase agreements. That comes later. So the municipal aggregation, as I said, is enabled by state law. The law was originally adopted in 1996, but was adopted as opt-in, which meant you could only participate as a retail customer if you raised your hand and proactively said, I'm in. In 2019, we got the law amended to enable it to be opt-out, because the successful aggregations around the country struggle to get a high level of participation when people have to proactively sign up. But if they're automatically enrolled, unless they choose not to be, you have a much higher participation rate. Essentially, customers just want the electricity delivered to their home, right? And they want to make sure it's not outrageously expensive. Other than that, a lot of people don't want to be bogged down in the details. And the goal of an aggregation is to make it possible for them to go green without paying any more than they're currently paying for the default power that's provided to them by our incumbent electric utilities. And for the most part, the vast majority of customers in Hanover are customers of Liberty, but there are a handful of folks who are Eversource customers and New Hampshire Electric Co-op customers. So our goal is to aggregate the demand and go out on the open wholesale market to procure green power. In order to create an aggregation, it needs to be created at the community-wide level. And so each city or town or county that chooses to participate needs to create an in-town, in-city, or in-county entity, and that would be called Hanover Community Power. We would then be working very closely with our parent organization, which is the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, which would handle all of the purchase, all of the bidding of this electricity, because they would be the professionals who know how to do this, not leaving it to us as local officials to have to figure this out on our own. CPCNH, Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, was launched with a group sitting together in a meeting room in Concord in the Clean Energy New Hampshire offices in the winter of 2019. And that group has been working closely ever since then to develop the concept, to develop the legal documents to create Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, to lobby on our behalf in the legislature as things have sort of progressed, and to develop sort of model aggregation plans that can be used by individual communities. If Hanover adopts this aggregation plan in July, we'll be the second community in the state to adopt one. The little town of Harrisville just adopted theirs at their town meeting about 2 weeks ago. And the role of CPCNH is—
Julia, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure, Peter.
Hanover Community Power, what is that? What is that exactly? Is it a committee? Is it a company? What is it?
It is an aggregation, and that aggregation is overseen formally by the select board. We as town staff would advise you on that aggregation, the operation of that aggregation. But in essence, Peter, we, Hanover Community Power, would be contracting with Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, this much larger organization, umbrella organization, to bid power for all of our retail customers who don't choose to opt out in Hanover.
I understand all that. I just for a very technical question.
Yeah.
Hanover Community Power is I know it aggregates, but
Right.
But is it a LLC? Is it a committee? Is it a town committee? Is it a?
It is a town committee.
Thank you.
And you currently have an electric aggregation committee, which you appointed in the fall of 2017, I'm sorry. And that is your energy subcommittee on Sustainable Hanover. It's
Thank
a
you.
group that meets monthly, very active in this field.
Okay, so it's a committee of the town of Hanover.
Right,
Thank you.
right. In addition, Peter, Hanover Community Power will be able to nominate one representative to serve on the board of the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. The first 21 cities, towns, and counties that join the coalition have an automatic one representative on the board. And then after that, additional members would be appointed at the annual meeting of CPCNH. So because we're sort of a founding member, we will have a seat on the board of CPCNH. And if you recall, the select board authorized signing the joint powers agreement in January. That essentially was our membership nod to the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. So this just gives a little sense of an aggregation plan, but all I wanted for people to understand in this slide is that there's a very specific statutory process that's outlined in RSA 53E to create the aggregation. You have to establish the Electric Aggregation Committee, which you did. That committee needs to develop a plan, which it did. In point of fact, town staff developed that plan with the planners of CPCNH, and then we pulled our Electric Aggregation Committee in to endorse that plan. So we didn't make them do all the work. April Salas and I did the work on the plan. And then that plan needs to be approved by the select board and needs to be put on the warrant for town meeting and adopted at town meeting. Right now, as you'll see in the pre-town meeting public hearing, it's warrant Article 17. It's very short and sweet, the language is prescribed by statute. And the electric aggregation plan, which we were talking about just before this meeting started, admittedly is complex. It is complex because the statute requires that it be so, because we have to submit it to the Public Utilities Commission for approval, and it needs to check all sorts of boxes as an aggregation plan. So this is the wording of the aggregation warrant, very simple and straightforward, to see if the town will vote to adopt Hanover Community Power Electric Aggregation Plan, which authorizes the select board to develop and implement Hanover Community Power as described therein pursuant to RSA 53E:7. In the warrant for town meeting, in the town report, we'll include the actual plan itself, but the frequently asked questions, which we drafted to try and demystify what is admittedly a technical plan for the benefit of citizens who are just interested in, okay, what does this all really mean at the end of the day? So that's it for the PowerPoint presentation. But again, I think helpful to just sort of walk people through, why are we doing this in the order in which we're doing it? And why does this have to go on the warrant? And what does that warrant article look like?
Okay. So tonight we have two things really. One is to adopt this plan, and the second is to approve a warrant article where the town of Hanover votes on it as well. I'll save my comments for the warrant article for later. Are there any questions from the public? It's a public hearing. Any questions from the public relative to the Hanover Community Power Electric Aggregation Plan?
Don't see anything, Peter.
Seeing nothing, any questions from the board?
Nancy?
Nancy?
Nancy's got her hand. Nancy, you're on mute.
Excuse me. I was wondering if the FAQs can be included in the town report in either an appendix or something like that, so that people wouldn't have to go to a different source, because I would imagine the FAQs will be much more popular than the document itself.
They will be included, Nancy, and I also in the background information, which it comes right after the warrant. We do sort of a capsule summary of Article 17,
Right.
and then reference as attachments to the background information, both the electric aggregation plan and point people to the frequently asked questions answers.
Perfect. Thank you.
Julia, is net metering affected by this at all?
So it's a really complex topic, Athos, and it is fluid at this point. For those of us who are solar hosters, those of us who have solar on our rooftops or ground mounted, yes, we can participate. There's still some subtleties that need to be worked out with the Public Utilities Commission, and a couple that have a legislative element to it, which is to say the jury is still out on the extent to which those of us who already have solar will be able to participate, but we will to a certain extent. I think what's going to happen, Athos, is that if this gets off the ground and we actually are successful in going out to bid probably next spring for power for as many communities and counties as join, that's going to trigger both the legislature and the PUC's recognition that among some of the things they need to wrestle with the rules will be how to treat net metering.
So the simplest way, okay, thank you. I understand. Thank you very much.
Okay, if there's no other input from the public, I will call this public hearing closed, and I will move that we adopt the proposed Hanover Community Power Electric Aggregation Plan for town meeting. We approve it. We adopt it. And we should refer it to the town meeting for approval.
I'll second that.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Gracias, yes.
It passes unanimously. Thank you. I now open a public hearing to review and amend the appendix for Ordinance 20, Regulation of Public Lands to include Minkbrook Community Forest. That public hearing is now open. Julie, it looks like we just need to add the Minkbrook Forest to the,
It's as
Very-
simple as that, Peter. How fortunate we are to have that to add to our list.
wow.
I move that we approve the adding the Minkbrook Forest to the list. And Julia, can you, I
I'll
guess I
second.
should wait until there's a second, sorry.
I'll second. Bill,
May I ask a question, Peter?
Sure.
Can you remind us exactly how many acres is involved in that parcel? And I actually think it would be useful in the appendix in that ordinance to add that as a column, because it's pretty cool in terms of all of the, I guess you can't really see it, but that appendix A with all of the town
All
owned,
the acreage, yeah,
just add the acreage
for
to
each.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's easily, Conservation Commission, I'm sure has it. It's a good resource, and, you know, we should be proud of that. And I think this is, you know, even amidst this chaos of the past 15, 16 months, you know, good work was done, and for Hanover now and its future. So kudos all around to the people that worked on this.
and it's 250 acres, Joanna, the Minkbrook Community Forest. And I have to say, there's been such excitement in the community around this parcel, which is understandable. It's large and it's beautifully situated, sort of close to town, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening in terms of planning and implementation on both the north side parcel and the south side parcel. Town staff are assisting with some, but just great planning. So it's been nice to have that as kind of a winter spring project for the community.
Okay, is there any public input in this public hearing? Hearing none, I close the public hearing, and we have a motion that's been seconded to include Minkbrook Community Forest in the ordinance 20. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, all those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yeah.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Ms. Rossi, yes.
It is unanimously approved. The next order of business is I open a pre-town meeting public hearing to consider and review the proposed warrant for the July 13th, 2021 town meeting. So I guess we should probably go through this one by one in terms of what we need to act on and get public input before we act. Is that a good way to go, board? All right. Where do we start? We start with Article
Peter, you have an Article 5, which
yeah, we start with Article 5, don't we? That's
you got a new Article 5 that came in. So everything's going to need to be renumbered. We received a petition amendment earlier this afternoon, late afternoon, earlier today, that I can read for you, that needs to go on the official ballot as the last item on the ballot, because it's the last item to come in.
Well, let's act on that one in order then. We need to really start with, there's no vote by us on Article 1, is that correct?
Correct. Nothing by you on Article 1, nothing by you on Articles
Article
2, 3, or 4. The planning board has voted on those, takes a
Okay,
position on
so
those.
Article 5 now goes in and we don't act on it, it's just on the ballot.
No, you have to indicate your position on Article 5.
Okay, so would you read to us Article 5?
Excuse me, Julia, why is it go in at 5?
It was the last, it goes in or on Athos in the order in which it's received. And it was just received this afternoon. It is an official ballot question, not a business meeting question. So it becomes the new Article 5 and everything else has to be renumbered.
Oh, it's not a business meeting one. Okay, I
It
get it.
is not. It is voted on the ballot. And that's based on statute. And the article reads, do you favor the continuation of the town manager plan as now in force in this town?
Well, that's an interesting article. I think the good news here is that the affirmative answer, yes, it's worded in the affirmative, is it not? Do you support?
Right. Right. You, in other words, that you would favor the continuation of the town manager plan in force in this town.
Okay,
Wait,
so I guess we need we'll take a vote on that. Is there any discussion of this article?
Peter, I just want to be clear because for the other ones, we're voting for, against, or absent, which is not a vote, for or against. So could you read, what is a vote for this article?
Alpha's a vote for is, do you favor the continuation of the town manager plan as now in force in this town? So if you do favor the continuation of the town manager, you are in favor.
This is a very strange article.
Bill,
So if we vote for, and we state for, then that means that we continue the current management structure.
Correct.
But the public is going to vote under a yes or no vote. So there'd be, or skip it. One, those are your three choices, right? So for clarification, if this were to be voted no, what happens?
If this were voted no, and I
Majority.
had to familiarize with myself with this statute this afternoon, then my position would cease to exist. The statute says on April 15th, after the succeeding year's town meeting. Because we have a May town meeting, I believe that therefore my position would disappear on June 15th. But I didn't have time to get that clarified with the town attorney.
June 15th of what year, please?
2022.
Thank you.
What I'm looking for is whatever the explanation paragraph is. If you vote yes, it's pretty clear, just status quo. If you vote no, there's a process under New Hampshire regulations that I don't understand. So if I don't understand it, I'm not sure who else is going to understand it in the community until we write up the explanation. So my point is that my understanding right now is that for a town under New Hampshire regulations, you either have a town manager or a town administrator. And a town administrator is just I'll call it a not as high level of responsibility, which means the select board has to do more work and get more involved in the operations of the town, day-to-day operations. Is that a quick summary statement? That's fair, or is it?
Town administrators have less statutory authority under state law than town managers do. But it's murkier than that for me, Bill, because our charter was amended to include the town manager position back in the early 70s. So what I have had no time to try and understand this statutorily, and I haven't had a chance to talk with the town attorney about this either.
So Julia, when do you have to write up the background material for this, or
Tomorrow,
tomorrow?
because we have to take this town report to the printer on Thursday.
And will we have a chance to look at it before then?
Yeah, I want you all, and I feel a little bit uncomfortable writing this myself because this is my job that they want to eliminate.
Are you
so-
more comfortable having our attorney write it? I mean, we need an explanation to understand what a no vote means in clear, concise wording so people know what they're voting on.
Yeah,
It's not going to be at the business meeting as Athos, raised, so there's no opportunity to explain it to the voters except on a written document or on the streets in Hanover. So it's going to be confusing is my point.
Yeah, I could certainly talk to Laura, Bill. I gotta sort of sleep on this to sort of think through, okay, how do we,
Julia, I think, Julia, we understand your conflict of interest in this.
Yeah.
We accept it. And I would just get on with writing as clear an explanation as you can
okay,
and go from there.
okay.
Absolutely. I agree.
And I mean, you can always run it by Laura, but I mean,
Oh,
having
yeah.
her- obviously, I mean, she reviews everything, right? So,
Good suggestion, Joanna. Yeah.
Nancy,
So my question is, how is the vote going to be? Because Articles 3 and 4, I think they're going to say, I, the voter, approve of this article, or I, the voter, disapprove. So how is Article 5 going to be worded in terms of how one votes?
it has to be presented exactly as it is, right? So it's I approve of the town manager plan, or I disapprove of the town manager plan, right?
Right.
So we're going to be using the words approve or disapprove. 'cause
I
we-
believe so, Nancy. Yes.
Okay, because we were just going to use different words when we were putting our hands up as a select board, and so that was why I was confused.
Right.
no, again, the article is written in the affirmative. Therefore, a yes vote continues the status quo.
And the reason it is, Peter, is because this is the way that statute says you need to phrase it.
Good.
So it is sort of an awkward construction, I think, but it's the statutory language.
Okay, I think, any other questions by the board? So all those in favor of this petition article, say aye. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Mathews Francis, yes, because it is the way it should be and it works really well and we need to continue it.
Okay, Julia, we look forward to your attempt at explaining what the heck a no vote could possibly mean to the town of Hanover. Good luck tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing that. And I know you really had all tomorrow. You were really looking forward to doing that tomorrow, weren't you? You don't have to answer, you do not have to answer that question. You complete the take the fifth. Okay, so now we're moving on. I'm going to go with the article, the nomenclature in the current draft, with knowing that everything's going to be moved up one notch. So I'm going to say Article 5, because that's what's written on our page, something or other, knowing that it will really be Article 6.
Right, right.
So Article 5 is to choose the following town officers to be elected by a majority vote. We have 3 fence viewers, we have 2 surveyors of the woods, and other officers of the town may judge necessary for managing affairs. So we need to vote on this, Julia? We approve the fence sitters and the surveyors.
Right, you don't need to vote. We just read the names at town meeting and town meeting approves.
Okay. Okay, now we get serious here. Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $950,000 for the purpose of capital perk repairs and renovations to selected bridges throughout the town, and to authorize such sum to be raised through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, as amended, to authorize the select board to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, gifts, and donations, if any of which may be available of said project, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project, to authorize the select board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds and notes, and to determine the date of interest thereupon and the maturity of other terms thereof, and to authorize the select board to take any other action necessary to carry out this vote or to pass any other vote relative thereto. This action shall be written yes, no ballot, polls shall remain open, and ballots shall be accepted by the moderator. So that's the exact warrant article. Maybe it makes sense to talk about the explanations as we go along.
Peter,
yes,
just
Bill?
to be technical, you got to keep reading. There's another sentence on the next page.
Oh, for a period of not less than 1 hour following the completion of discussion on this article. 3/5 ballot vote required to pass. Thank you, Bill. So maybe, Okay, so this is our warrant article to create the bonding for our bridge projects. And I would like to go to the explanation, if that makes sense, if I can find it there. If I jump over several pages, I go to part 2, which is the exploratory information, and I go to Article 5, Article 6, actually. Okay, and then I have some comments on the explanation. We want to deal into with those now. Does that make sense, board? Or do you want to come back to this stuff later?
Well,
Talking about
we
the
also have
background.
questions about this too, right?
Yeah,
Didn't
Kari had a question
Kari
about,
raised questions about this.
Kari can come along anytime she's ready. Okay,
And-
before Kari, let's just do our own work and then Kari can jump in. So I'm running out of light in my room, excuse me. Okay, so I didn't send you out anything, any of my wording, suggested wording on this, I don't believe. But if I go to page, they're not numbered. If I go to Article 6 and I go to paragraph 2. Oh boy. Okay, so I go to the second paragraph, says the town is responsible for maintaining 25 bridges, goes on and on and on. And about end of sentence 5, it says, or replace 10 bridges. At the May 24th meeting, the bridge replacement and renovation capital reserve fund was established. And I would insert, I would delete with an initial deposit of 34,000. And I would include, it was established and has been used to fund bridge replacement since then. So we established a bridge fund and we've used it ever since then to replace our bridges. Then we go on to say the town of Hanover is looking at several necessary large dollar investments in several bridges in the near term. And the accumulated monies in this fund are simply not adequate to cover the anticipated need without a significant front load increase in the contributions. I would then delete. In fact, town staff is modeled that annual bridge fund contribution would ultimately cost the town more than borrowing in the current low environment. I would delete that sentence and I would say it was determined, given the upfront cost of these bridge renovations, delete the word of some. It was determined, given the large upfront cost of these bridge renovations, coupled with the useful life of 50 years, borrowing for these projects with the interest rates are so low is in the town's best financial interest. So basically what I'm trying to do is there was wording that was left over from some of our earlier meetings, that somehow the town was going to save money by borrowing. That's not true. We will, over the next 5 years, our annual contribution, or the next 2 years, our annual contribution to the fund would have been very high compared to what we will have to pay for a 20-year bond. But that is a very different kind of statement. So what I'm trying to get at here is to get rid of the implication that this will cost us less money. It will not cost us less money. It just spreads out the payment over 20 years or whatever life we choose, rather than having to fund this fund for the next 1 or 2 years. And I can help with this. And then any questions about that part of my change?
Peter, can you email me that language or read it one more time? Because I couldn't keep up.
I'll try to email it.
Thank
The trouble is
you.
I don't have this in a Word document. So I'll do the best I can, Julie, and get it to you.
Okay,
The essence of what I'm trying to do is get rid of this implication that we're going to save money. We're not going to save money. That carries over to the next page. And I'll read the paragraph there. It says, the first paragraph on the next page, the payments for this bond would not begin until the following fiscal year, July 2022, June 30, 23. The exact borrowing instrument has not yet been negotiated, but town staff has used a 20-year note with annual debt service, conservatively projecting. Now, I'm going to get rid of all that. I just want to say, town staff has projected favorable low interest rates and has already made more invitation of the current market. So I'll send that to you. But basically, I'm trying to get rid of this idea that we're going to save money again. Because we're not.
Sure.
I thought I had this pretty well written out, but so I'm just saying, it's just going to read the town staff projects favorable low interest rates for long-term borrowing. And then leave it there.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm sorry to be so, not to have gotten this out to you more clearly, but any Kari?
Yes, I think those are wonderful improvements. And I just wanted to ask if you could also, when you have a final draft, send that over to me for the finance committee, as I think we will be writing a letter to the editor in support of this warrant article. And it would be useful just to make sure that that there are consistencies between what you are saying and what our letter says. I then also mentioned earlier that I was interested in the status of the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund because when this bond was first discussed, we also discussed discontinuing that reserve fund. Since that time, it has come up in the Finance Committee that there might be advantages to leaving that $137,000 in place, given that we now know that some federal funds are going to be coming in. But I was wondering if somebody on staff or on the select board could explain the evolution in the thought process so that we no longer see that the fund itself is going to be dissolved.
So Kari, Julia here, Betsy and Peter Kobacki and I talked about whether or not to put that dissolution of that fund on the warrant for this year's town meeting or wait, because you're absolutely correct. With the uncertainty as to whether or not there will be bridge infrastructure money available to cities and towns, we thought we'd be better off leaving the reserve intact for now until we have a better sense of what's going to be happening at the federal level. Things may change. I mean, I don't know, tonight's news on this infrastructure bill was not very promising, but who knows? And we'd rather have the bridge reserve if money is available than not. So by not dissolving it this year, we at least hold that option open for another year while we wait to see how this plays out at the federal level.
Right, and I would just add to that with that we don't actually know that the bond will pass because it requires a super majority, and then not to have that change set aside for next fiscal year 23 when the bridge work really needs to happen.
Exactly.
Would be too bad. So I just appreciate hearing your explanation of the thought behind that.
Okay, thank you, Kari. So board, any other questions about this warrant article? So I believe the article itself.
I have a quick question, Peter.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you just clarify how the voting takes place? People are literally going to be leaving their cars and going to the polling place, which is at the side of Dewey Lot, and casting a ballot?
No, so Nancy, what we do, if you remember at town meeting when we're normally in the gym,
Right.
we hand everybody a piece of paper
They're pink slips.
with
Yeah.
with a yes and a no.
Yeah.
And we have them vote, fold their vote in half, and
Right.
hand it to us. So we'll use
Okay.
our runners, our department head runners, as we did last year. They'll
Okay.
each have a quadrant of the parking lot that they're responsible for. But if somebody comes late to the meeting, for example, or wants to mull it over for a little bit before they vote, all bond votes require that you leave the polls open for an hour to vote. In actuality, almost everybody votes right away once you call the vote, but statute requires you leave it open for an hour.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe there's no change in the warrant article itself. So any other questions about the warrant article? Article 6 we're talking about. I believe, was it moved and seconded? I forget.
It was Joanna moved, Bill seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb,
Nancy Carter, yes.
This Francis, yes.
It passes unanimously. Or it's recommended unanimously. I'm not going to read the rest because you all have them in front of you, but Article 7 is the appropriation of $18,000 into the Land and Community Improvements Fund. Any questions on this Article 7? Can I hear a motion? First of all, can I hear a motion to approve? I move that it be approved.
Nancy Carter, second.
Okay, discussion on Article 7.
Yep, and this is just the deposit of half of the land use change tax that we've received in the previous fiscal year that goes into the Land and Capital Improvements Fund. The next warrant article appropriates the other half of the amount received into the Conservation Fund.
This is the
Okay.
process we've used each year.
Yep, we've been doing this for years.
Okay, so Article 7, it's been moved and seconded. All those that are in favor, say, vote in favor. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
This Francis, yes.
So I have four, I have all voting in favor, none against, and none abstaining. Article 8, which is the mirror image of this one, and I move Article 8.
I'll second.
And this just deposits
Yeah.
18,790 into the Conservation Fund, half the land use change tax proceeds.
Correct. Any questions on this one, board? Hearing none, all those for, say aye. Peter Christie, aye.
Bill Garrity, aye.
Joanna Whitcomb, aye.
Nancy Carter, aye.
This Francis, aye.
We have 5 fours and no against. Article 9. This is the appropriate 33,000 for deposit into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund.
This is the money that everybody pays the $5 motor vehicle surcharge every year when they register their motor vehicle. This money, which is collected, and this was from the 2019-2020 fiscal year after the audit, is the amount is identified by the auditors. We appropriate that into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund, and then you'll see down below, there's a warrant article to use some of the money in that fund, primarily used for bike ped traffic signal improvements in town.
And again, this is an article that is, we have come to
Do
know.
every year. Right.
Any questions about this Article 9?
I'll move.
I'll second it. So all those that are for Article 9, say yes. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
This Francis, yes.
So I have four, all voting for and none against. And it gets us to Article 10, which is a
Deposit into our capital reserve funds.
This is the money going into the capital reserve fund, which is the taxable event.
Correct.
And it lists out $1.4 million and the funds to which it is going. Again, this is right from our budget, so there's no surprises here. Any questions on this Article 10?
You will notice we are not making a deposit into the Bridge Capital Improvement Fund in Article 10. as Kari mentioned, we'll keep the fund, the capital reserve fund in situ basically, but we're not depositing any money into it in next fiscal year because of the bond.
Nancy Carter moves Article 10.
I'll second that.
Okay, again, Article 10, all those voting for, say yes. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Woodcomb,
Nancy Carter, yes.
Gracias, yes.
So I have all 5 of us voting yes on Article 10. Article 11 is the actual expenditures for capital improvements this year, non-taxable, but coming out of the reserves. Julie, I did have one question on the 1 through 3rd line down, highway construction. It uses the words equipment such as. Should we use the word including? I mean, is this not a comprehensive list?
No, that's fine. We can change that wording, Peter.
I think we normally show a very comprehensive list.
Yep,
So I think I'd rather say including
including.
grader,
Yep,
sidewalk, tractor,
okay,
and vacuum sweeper,
got it,
rather than such as.
got it.
Okay, any other questions about Article 11? Again, right from our budgets.
I'll move Article 11.
I'll second that. So with that one change in wording, all those in favor say yes. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Woodcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Gracias, yes.
Okay, we have 5 voting yes on that. Article 12. This is for the.
Isn't this article, why isn't this Article 10?
Well,
Article 12, I mean.
I know, but why do you like
yeah, so it has to,
deposit and then withdraw? Why
We
aren't
always-
they back to back?
we always do, you're right, Joanna, but this is the order that statutorily is required. You've got to do the capital improvement into and out of first before you tackle these appropriations. I know, I agree, it makes sense to have them back to back, but we're not supposed to do it that way. So this is just the appropriation out of the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund, which again is made up of $5 surcharges every time anybody registers a motor vehicle, to finally build that little sidewalk segment on Crosby Street and along the side of the FOM building, which right now is a donkey trail and has been for my entire 24 plus years in Hanover. It drives me crazy.
No, but it's just, why wouldn't you, okay, perhaps change Article 9 to be after Article 11 as it's written here? Just so they're right next to each other, so you're not confusing people. Is there some statutory reason for that?
So here's the deal. DRA has already approved the ordering of all of this, and so is Laura
Okay, that's
Spector
fine. That's fine.
Morgan. This is the way we've always done it, which is an answer
I
I
know,
hate
but
to give.
sometimes that's not the best
I know,
way.
I
You know,
know.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I
We can
know, I
change
know.
stuff sometimes.
I know.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
I think I just heard Joanna volunteering to sponsor this particular article. Just a
I'm
joke.
fine
sir.
with it. It's
Just a
really
joke,
a
just
good,
a
it's a
joke.
good thing. But sometimes it's confusing to me that we do things the way we do it.
I know.
I think we agree. Okay, we voted on Article 12 yet. I don't think we have. All those in favor of Article 12, please say yes. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Woodcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Gracias, yes.
So we have all of us voting in favor of Article 12. Now we go to Articles 13. I guess we take them all together. Articles 13, 14, and 15, which all involve the 1-year negotiations with the Public Works, Police Department, and the Fire Department unions, agreeing to a step increase with no COLA increase for 1 year. This has been highly discussed with the board. So I would move all 3.
I will second that.
And if unless somebody objects, I would like to vote on all 3 at the same time. Hearing no objections, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Woodcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Gracias, yes.
So I think we have all All in favor of those articles. All right, so we're up to Article
16, Peter.
16. Oh, that's a big one. That's the general budget one for 26
That's your
million.
budget warrant article. Yep.
Okay, so that comes again straight out of our budget deliberations. I'll move that one. Do we have a second?
Nancy Carter seconds.
Any discussions on Article 16? Hearing none. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Arthur Francis, yes.
We are all in favor of Article 16. Okay, the 17 is the one we just discussed. And let's just vote on it, and then I will come back to the explanation in a second. So this is to see if the town will vote to adopt the Hanover Community Power Electric Aggregation Plan, which we have just passed as a select board, or recommended as a select board to the town meeting. And our vote here will be either in favor or not in favor of that aggregation plan. I move the adoption of the aggregation plan, or recommendation of the aggregation plan.
I'll second that motion, Joanna Whitcomb.
Any further discussion of the article itself? Hearing none. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Arthur Francis, yes.
Okay, this is a big departure now, but when on the explanation of this, I basically took 4 pages or 5 pages and reduced it to 1 paragraph.
Okay.
I think I
All
sent
that
that.
writing.
I know, but I think all we're doing here, did you receive it this afternoon? Did people receive my Article 17?
Yep.
Change?
I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'll take a look at it.
Okay, so basically it says, it starts off the same, but the main paragraph will be, on May 2000, Hanover Town Meeting adopted the, well, I guess I can't, I have a lot of dots here. Hold on.
Peter, did you send it in an email?
I did send it in an email as an attachment,
Okay.
right along with right after or before the Article 6 email.
Okay. Maybe I just missed that.
I think, but I basically, I eliminated all that stuff, and I wrote approval of this warrant article will enable town staff, together with Sustainable Hanover volunteers and staff of Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, to plan for the official launch of Hanover Community Power. HPC will pool Hanover's entire retail electric purchases with other participating New Hampshire communities through CPCNH, which in turn will contract to purchase only green electricity at favorable rates from members of the coalition. And then we say we're going to attach the plan and everything else. So, and then I also would say, I would add to that, if approved and implemented, electric utility consumers will always have the option to opt out of the program.
Okay.
So I know all that.
Or keep
history.
it simple.
And you can have you can have a large document, you can have all the FAQs, load that baby up. But on this case, I think we just want to tell the people, this is step 3 of our ready for 100 memo or obligation. And we're just creating this in order to have the ability to accumulate and get lower rates with green power. And I think that's all. I mean, anyway, did other people get that email?
I don't have it, Peter.
You didn't get it.
I just checked and I didn't get it. So I apologize.
I'll have to get it to you.
If you could resend it, or that would be great.
But
I mean, I err on the side of overwriting or overthinking this because I'm too deep in the weeds. So
I went trying to kind of condense your stuff but I kept going down the same traps, where I couldn't get out of the cycle. So I just said, what are we trying to achieve here?
right.
I got it. I think I got it captured in 1 paragraph that we can understand. And if people want to get down into the weeds and into the history, let's provide them that information someplace else. Or
It's
as
in the
part of an appendix.
FAQs. Yeah,
I mean, yours was a beautifully written history of how we got to where we are.
yeah.
I'm not so sure it's as it's relevant. Obviously, it's relevant. But
Yep.
just to get it to what this particular article is doing, I think can be simplified into one paragraph.
I have a question though, just in terms of your wording.
Yep.
And it's probably because I didn't understand the 40 odd pages here, but the Hanover Community Power, our goal is to have green electricity, but we may not have 100%. Is that correct? That sometimes it could be 75% green, 25% fossil or, combustible. So just to make sure Peter's words are correct, that we're providing options for aggregating our electric purchase. It
Right.
may not all be, one option might be 100% green, but that
Right.
might be 50% more expensive than the 50% green, 50%. Is that right? Or
Our hope, Joanna, is that by purchasing in large bulk, we'll be able to purchase 100% green at prices that rival what we're paying for default power. But what many successful aggregations have done is to offer 3 or 4 different options to their customers, because some folks are attracted by actually saving money. And the saving money might be 50% green, 50% brown, right? And then there's a 75% green, 25%. The goal is 100%, and this is the way we get there, but it's not as if the only product we'll provide is 100% green.
I think Joanna's comments are, so Joan, let me change my wording. Right now it reads, which in turn will contract to purchase only green power. I will change that to purchase as much green electricity as possible
Yep,
at favorable rates for members of the coalition.
yep.
perfect. Thanks, Peter. I can totally support that.
Yeah, thank you for that help. And again, when you get a chance to read this in this context, if you have suggestions, send them to me tonight, and I'll be working on this tomorrow. When will I work? It's tomorrow morning, probably.
Okay. And then if you just email it to me, Peter, I'll cut and paste.
You should have, your name was on the email and I just forwarded it to you again, Julia. So you should.
Oh, thank you. I don't know why.
I imagine you get 1,700 emails a day, so.
Here's a special box for the select board, but I won't tell you what box it is.
Right.
Okay, so I guess we have more to do. So anyway, that was a major suggested change to the wording in the explanation. I'm just let's get it down to 1 or 2 paragraphs,
Sure,
put it in a small context, and then
sure.
put all that other stuff where those who really want to delve in can have at it.
Okay,
Okay, so it sounds like people are in favor of that approach.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, what is the next one?
article.
Peter,
Yes,
Peter,
Bill.
Kari, as a member of the public, has her hand up.
Oh,
I
don't
think
see
she's had it up for a while. I think we missed it.
Kari, are you there?
And now I am unmuted as well.
Oh,
I had my hand up during Article 5, and then I tried to interject at the end of Article 6, but I had already been unmuted. What I was wondering, Julia, is if you could give me the RSA that is referenced in that petition warrant article. And then I would also like to request that whatever verbiage comes up, that you also forward that to me in case the Finance Committee would like to take a position.
Yeah, what I'll do, Kari, I'm just going to my email here. Hold on 1 second. And it is RSA. RSA 37:15.
Okay. And then if you could forward to me whatever is written, hopefully before our meeting next Monday at 5 o'clock. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll do that, Kari. I just have got, hopefully I get it done tomorrow. I've just got a ton of stuff on my plate for tomorrow, so that's my goal.
Yeah,
And as soon as I get it to the select board and make sure I'm accurately reflecting their view on this, then I'll get it out to you.
That's great. It's not always clear what's in our purview and what's not, but I think that this is something that people might be opinionated about and want to express an opinion. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Will do.
Okay, so we're now up to Article 18. And I have some very simple suggestion in Article 18, which is in the second paragraph, after it says undeveloped, to insert the words town-owned, undeveloped land, town-owned land at 60 and 61 Goose Pond Road. I think it just helps to say at the beginning who owns what here in this swap.
Okay.
So it would read 2 parcels, undeveloped, town-owned land at 60 and 61 Goose Pond Road.
Okay, gotcha. Will do.
Other than that change, is anybody else questions about Article 18?
I wanted to know who the Bear Hill Conservancy is. Are we allowed to know?
Yeah, Peter?
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that, I'm suddenly
If you look in the write-up, it says who the principals are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
in
I
the background
apologize.
information.
I apologize.
Peter
I-
Roby and somebody else. I forget.
Peter Roby. Yep, I was
I think if you
blanking.
look at, I think the explanation is accurate.
Thank you.
And Vicky Smith wrote the explanation.
Yeah, the explanation I think is right on.
Okay,
It's,
It really explains well what's going on and what the swap is all about.
thank you.
But I think in this article, we just need to be, it wasn't clear to me when I first read it,
yep,
who the heck owns 60 and 61, who owned what?
Yeah,
David Roby and Bob Norman,
Norman.
Nancy.
yep.
Okay, so we're back to Article 18. Any questions about Article 18 with that one change? Hearing none, all those are for it. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Strassius, yes.
Okay,
Just
so
to keep the house clean, did we actually
No,
move it?
we didn't move it.
okay.
We have to move these? We're just
I don't think
voicing
we
our
do.
opinion. I don't get it.
Well, since we've done all the rest of them, Bill, would you move that one?
I'll move. I
Article
so move, Bill
18.
Garrity.
I'll second that, Joanna Whitcomb.
Okay, and then I'll take another vote. All those for, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Strassius, yes.
I think Athos is right. We probably don't need to move any of these. We just need to vote for or against them. So that's what we're going to do on 18. We're not going to have any motions. So 18 was this petition
19,
article.
right?
19.
19, I'm sorry, 19. Here we go. Sorry, 19.
Last one.
This is the last one. Well, not quite the last one, but 19. And this is the one that was submitted by, I'm not sure who, but it's a general.
Peter, Deb Nelson is an attendee at the meeting
Okay.
tonight. This came in from Deb. In case you want to hear from Deb, she's raised her hand, so she can walk you through this petition if you'd like.
Hi, guys. This is Deb Nelson. This article or this petition or whatever it is something that has been brought forward to and passed by over 62 communities around the state in their town meetings, or in the case of Lebanon, the city council simply voted in favor. And it's an effort to say to the redistricting committee in Concord that voters, residents do or do not want a fair and transparent process for redistricting. So it's simply taking the temperature of the community and then conveying that to the state. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it reads, I mean, the article reads very clearly, I think.
Mhm. I hope so. I mean, that was the intent. I talked to Betsy about it. I only got 25 people to sign it because they all had to be looked up on the town checklist. And I'm fully prepared to explain it in front of the town meeting.
So again, just as a practice or policy, sometimes I guess we've been educated in the past that we needed to take a position on these articles that came in from an outside source, but then we were re-educated that maybe we don't have to take a position, that we can abstain if that is our choice. So I think there is a bit of a, I don't know how long I want to put this on, some policy decision about whether we should be taking action on what I will call a third-party article petition. Anybody feel strongly one way? I mean, I personally support it, but I'm now asking the question, should I be supporting it as a select board member or abstaining and then voting in favor of it in town meeting? I'm not sure what the right practice is.
Well, it feels like there was a petitioned amendment, which is now our Article 5 that we voted on about the town manager plan. I mean, we made that was a yes or no, and this is being brought to our town meeting. I don't know. I kind of feel like
That's a good
we
point.
could take a position.
My reaction is to take a position, but if there's some article down the road that we don't want, take a position on, we just abstain.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay, I get it. So let's vote to for or against or abstain on Article 19. And I'm not going to move it because we don't have to. So this is Peter Christie for it.
Bill Garrity for.
Joanna Woodcomb for.
Nancy Carter for.
Athos Gracias for.
Okay, so we have all this voting.
Can I point out something which I just noticed?
Please.
In the warrant articles, I seem to recall at some past meeting, we weren't allowed to abstain. And in fact, that could be incorrect, and I'm happy to be corrected. But all the way through Article 16, it says for, against, absent.
Yeah,
And then
you're
at
right.
17, it changes to abstain.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, Athos.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Am I correct in saying I remember years ago, I was told I couldn't abstain.
Right, it's absent.
Yep, okay.
So would this one also be absent?
Right.
So it's more like a typo.
Yeah, well, so often what happens is we're doing some cutting and pasting of prior warrants, and
Yeah.
that's why we do this hearing, is so you guys can catch my mistakes and point them out.
Well done, Athos.
Thank you, Athos.
Okay, going through this, I think, are we done?
Yeah, you are done.
Okay, so we're done with this, with the town meeting warrant articles. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and I owe some wording on Article 17. And I guess that's, I don't think I owe anything else. Anybody else owe anything else? Okay, so that's good. What's our next item on the agenda?
It is the set a public hearing for Monday, June 21st to review and consider the proposed rates and fee schedule for fiscal year 21-22.
I so move.
Second.
Bill Garrity, I'll second. Unless Joanna already did it, but cut herself off.
Okay, so we're on, so we're gonna vote in. Any questions about setting the public hearing for June 21? We may be all in person. So it's moved and seconded, having no further discussion. All those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Woodcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Athos Gracias, yes.
It passes unanimously. So the next order is to review and approve, if we want to, a sole owned license petition from Liberty Utilities for a secondary handhold at number 3 and number 5 Wyeth Road. I don't remember authorizing handholds 1 and 2, but this is okay. 3, and to authorize town manager to execute all necessary documents. Julia,
You know, just as you authorize polls
yeah,
in the right of way, you also authorize handholds. And you may not know what a handhole is, but it's an important part of your electricity infrastructure. Liberty has worked with our staff on the locating of these 2 handholds. They approve, and they're therefore seeking a sole license to be implemented in that location, in those 2 locations.
okay, so I move handholds numbers 3 and 5 on Wyeth Road and authorizing Julia to take all necessary actions to get those handholds in place.
I just signed some licenses. That's the sum total of my involvement.
Is there a second to that motion? Joanna,
Was it?
beat Bill out, Joanna. No,
I'll
Bill,
second with a question.
okay. It's been
What's a
moved and
handhold?
seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Bill.
What's a handhole?
So a handhole
In 2 sentences.
is actually installed in the pavement. So picture it as a small utility cut in the pavement for underground utilities.
I'll have you explain that to me, Bill, tomorrow.
It's a manhole, a person hole,
Oh, manhole. Okay.
small.
It's a small
It's
one.
really the size of a hand.
So just to get your hand down into something.
Right, so sometimes when you look at pavement, you'll see a small round
Yes.
manhole as
yeah,
opposed to a large sewer or water
Yeah.
manhole. And very often those are electric utility handholds.
Okay, and you should know what you're doing before you put your hand in there.
Yes, that's advisable.
Okay, thank
And
you.
they're too small for Ninja Turtles to avert.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Gwen Woodkin, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Yes, and I just looked up a picture of them. They're little holes.
Right,
Great. Glad to hear it. Okay, so we have to approve the New Hampshire Department of Safety appointment of Donna Stender, Deputy Tax Collector and Assistant Tax Clerk as Town of Hanover Municipal Agent.
Because we're losing our wonderful Melissa
Yeah.
Hano, who's leaving us at the end of the week.
Oh,
And we're recruiting, and we've interviewed the top 2 finalists for Melissa's replacement. There'll be a little bit of a lag time. And so Donna needs to assume the title of Hanover Municipal Agent in the interim. Melissa, we're really sad to lose her. She's basically leaving the profession and going on to a completely new adventure in life, which is a real shame because she's we refer to her as our unicorn. She is so good in this field, and it's sad that the field is losing somebody with her talent.
got it. You will miss her. So is there a motion to appoint Donna as the Hanover Municipal Agent?
Also move that.
Nancy Carter, second.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Gwen Woodkin, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It is approved. Julia, COVID update.
Yes. So Peter, you had asked about the mask ordinance, and here's where we stand right now. The college made a decision to relax its mask requirements outdoors, and that announcement went out late Friday afternoon. For the foreseeable future, masks are still required indoors. And the college is still limiting the size of outdoor gatherings that it is organizing and hosting to, I believe it's 30 people, 25 or 30 people. So small gatherings of individuals outside are still the norm on campus.
With or without masks?
Without masks, outdoors. As long as everybody's vaccinated. If there's anybody who's unvaccinated, they need to remain masked indoors and outdoors. the only difference really between what the college has done and what the town still has in place is that we're still requiring masks to be worn in downtown when in close proximity. So when you can't maintain social distance, our ordinance says that masks are required outdoors in the settled part of town if you cannot maintain 6 feet of social distance. Quite frankly, what we've seen since the college made the announcement is less mask wearing downtown, primarily by visitors. And the only reason I say that is that I've seen a number of people today without masks. I didn't recognize anybody. I think our local folks are masking downtown, our visitors not so much, because it's not clear what the regulations are, even though all our big signs are still up. With the college's announcement, there's a little bit of confusion. The college.
Well,
Go
I
ahead, Joanne.
mean, CDC has announced, and the state of New Hampshire has,
Correct.
said that the outdoor, I mean, isn't the science saying that outdoors, the transmission
Is much lower
is
outdoors.
much lower, if any. And so that's probably why there's confusion, right?
That's right. And right across the border in Vermont, the rules are different. So you've got this, as always, we have this sort of confusing convergence of 2 state policies, neighboring states. And, interestingly enough, when I looked at the numbers today, the vaccination rates are substantially higher in Vermont than they are in New Hampshire. And what does that say about, has Vermont been more effective? Are Vermonters in general more inclined to get vaccinated than New Hampshire residents? What we saw in New Hampshire is that when the governor dropped the mask requirement or the mask mandate, the percentage of people getting vaccinated dropped precipitously in New Hampshire. This was not the case in Vermont. Right now, New Hampshire is at 49.6% vaccinated completely. 59.4% of New Hampshire residents have had at least one vaccine, but 49.6% are fully vaccinated. In Vermont, 58.4% of people are fully vaccinated and 80.8% have had at least one shot. So they're a full 20 percentage points higher in terms of the number of people who've had at least one shot in Vermont. What we, in talking with the college about this on Thursday and Friday last week, what we agreed to is, look, for the sake of being as safe as we can possibly be, when you're going to get a very large crowd of people together in the stadium for graduation, and when we're going to have large crowds of people in downtown Hanover, where maintaining any form of social distance is going to be hard, we'd like people to continue to mask. But starting next Monday, a week from today, we would recommend essentially taking down the mask signage. And we wouldn't necessarily recommend at this point revoking the ordinance, because here, we would recommend putting it on ice. And the only reason is, if for some reason COVID comes back in the fall, depending on what happens with variants, if we have an ordinance in place that we essentially reinvigorate, at least you don't have to go through the public hearing process again to establish a new ordinance. I have no idea what the fall is going to bring. I think it's entirely likely, although the governor has not stated this yet, when he typically he has renewed the emergency order every 3 weeks since late last March. When he renewed the emergency order a week ago, he renewed it for only 2 weeks, not 3, and indicated that it might be the last time he renews the statewide emergency order. So our public health ordinance number 40, which has to do with the size of gatherings that can take place, that is dependent on the existence of an emergency order in the state. So without an emergency order, that ordinance doesn't have any effect. But the mask ordinance is not dependent on the the emergency order status. Our feeling was, can we get us through what's going to be a week with a whole lot of people coming into town, albeit tough to enforce. And we haven't done a ton of heavy enforcement ever on this. Michael's really used it more as an educational opportunity than anything else. The thinking was leave our masking requirement in place for outdoors if you can't maintain social distancing till we get through graduation evening, and then Monday take the signs down.
Julie, I guess I have one question. Who are we trying to protect at this point?
So Peter, we're trying to protect the unvaccinated. And given that less than 50% of New Hampshire is fully vaccinated, that's 50 point some percent of our residents in New Hampshire are not fully vaccinated. In particular, because children aged 12 to 15 were only recently added to the group of residents who can be vaccinated. And, teens 15 through 18 were added, or 19 were added in early April, I believe. Most of our teens in that age group have gotten vaccinated, but our 12 to 15-year-olds are still midway through their vaccination cycle. And particularly with the CDC's concern about the number of teens who are being hospitalized for severe COVID, we're feeling like the longer we can hold on to protect as many people as possible, the better. We talked about this with respect to reopening town buildings, because the state's guidance with indoors is that anybody who is vaccinated should be wearing a mask indoors if you do not know if the people you are in the building with have been vaccinated. And because, for example, access to town hall or to attend your board meeting in 2 weeks, if we're in fact meeting in person, if the governor does not renew his emergency order and the legislation is not adopted by the legislature that allows us to continue to meet either virtually or hybrid, we can't ask people if they've been vaccinated. We can't require that they be vaccinated to enter a facility. So the general thinking is mask up indoors unless you know that the people you're with have been vaccinated fully. So we're going to continue to require our employees to wear masks indoors, because we have a couple of employees in every department who haven't been vaccinated, and also require that anybody coming into the building put on a mask as well, once we release the notion of having to mask outdoors. So again, we're just trying to get to, we're really trying to get to July 1st or July 4th, because that was sort of a magic date that the federal government was pushing toward, getting a preponderance of Americans at least one dose and more than half fully vaccinated. Doesn't look like we're going to get there at this point. And so the question is, how much longer can we hold out? So the thinking was, all right, let's just crawl through graduation with a large influx of visitors, mask up. We're not hog tying you to put on a mask, but we think you're better if you do, with a lot of incoming visitors. And then as soon as graduation is over, take the mask signs down.
Well, let me just jump in. I mean, my inclination is to follow the college's guideline. It's very complicated, but if we can still perhaps recommend that people wear masks downtown, but to require it when the college is not, and it seems to me, and I'm very, I think we've had great community support for this ordinance, and I'd hate to lose it because we are too conservative and hang on too long to a very worthy objective. So that's kind of where my gut is at the moment, but I'd love to hear from others. And certainly we should drop it after graduation. So we're really talking about 1 week here of changing our policy now or changing our policy 1 week from now, I think. Bill,
But didn't the college say to encourage the students when they go into town, so to speak, to wear a mask? Which would be the same statement we're making for this week,
Right.
that we encourage you to wear a mask.
is that what the college said?
Yes. Yeah, they encourage their students to and visitors to wear masks in downtown Hanover, in Lebanon, and they're required at graduation.
Okay,
That was I sent you the college's statement that they sent out to their community on Friday. I forwarded that all to you today, just so you could get a sense of their approach here. So that's what they had, are encouraging their community members to do. And, today in downtown, I saw, as I said, a fair number of people unmasking, but it wasn't so much students as it was, I felt like visitors, people I didn't recognize.
okay, so we can be consistent with the college's position by, whatever the right word is, changing our ordinance or just dropping it, or sustaining our ordinance through the next week, through graduation. Others, please.
So Peter, when you're asking who do we protect, the first people who come to mind to me is I think of the Richmond Middle School. I think of all of the, Hanover High. In my mind, anybody 15 or under deserves, and wearing a mask to me is such a small thing that if we are even keeping one 15-year-old or one 13-year-old out of the hospital, to me, it's not a trivial ask.
So, okay, so would you be in
How
favor?
about our doctor weighing in?
Yeah, well, that was, there's also the very complicated, I've been reading a fair bit about this, and I really don't know what the right answer is. I know what people's recommendations are. I know what the CDC recommendation is, but, and I know also that the risk of getting, of transmission outdoors is really vanishingly small, assuming people can separate. It's a completely different, Boston right now has, the Red Sox, are now playing with a full house. And if I were to go to a game, frankly, I would wear a mask. And I've noticed that a fair bit of the people in the audience are wearing masks, but not everyone, of course, because that's not the rule has been relaxed in Massachusetts. And absolutely, the greatest portion of people in our population that are unvaccinated at the moment really are the younger kids. But I also worry about people in, I was vaccinated I was in the first group in New Hampshire to get vaccinated due to what I do for work. And, I had my first vaccine in December. And we don't know how long immunity is going to last. And we don't know what's going to happen, as Julia mentioned, with the variants. So, the best guess is immunity will last at least a year, but everybody probably is going to be getting a booster shot at some point. So there's so many things playing into this, but I guess it comes back to the fact that a good portion of the population now is vaccinated, and the ones most at risk are the ones most vaccinated. And the risk of transmission outdoors, if you're not standing right next to somebody, is really vanishingly small. So I would support relaxing the mandate outdoors.
At what time? Is it right away, Athos, or after graduation?
As much. I'd have to defer to others with regard to public health in that sense, meaning, and what I mean by that is, I think the risk is really low if one is outside and can maintain distance, but that's not what we're asking. We're just saying masking can come off, period, correct? So I'm a little bit less comfortable with that if there is going to be a large number of people in town. So I think the smartest thing to do would be to wait until after graduation.
I think we should wait till after graduation because it's going to be impossible to keep any kind of social distance on our sidewalks
Yeah.
between now and Sunday.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
that's
not necessarily the next couple of days, but Thursday through Sunday, because it's just the normal crowd we get for graduation.
I think that's well said, Bill.
Joanna, do you have a,
I mean, we've made decisions in the past 15, 16 months, where we've tried to make decisions with the utmost caution, like utmost conservative. I don't know, there's some phrase, that we've used consistently. And I think, there's hundreds of people that are going to be arriving here. So, I concur with the group. And I think that, I don't think we're going to have masked police. I think, I think we can encourage people to be safe. And, we have the signs out there taken down on the 14th.
okay,
The
so
phrase you're looking for is abundance of caution, which is like,
Thank you.
there is no, I mean,
I know.
there's so many people have written essays on that. It means nothing. And it's annoying
Well,
every
like,
time you hear
I
it.
mean, it's been thrown out there, and it's like, okay, well, let's with the abundance of caution, let's
Yes,
keep
I
the
do.
mask ordinance in place, whatever.
Julia, let's say we wanted to wait until after graduation. What would the proper motion be tonight? To
Just
suspend the
move,
ordinance as effective a certain date?
just suspend the ordinance as of Monday, June 14th.
Okay, I'll move that and we can discuss that. I'll move that we suspend the ordinance effective June 14th.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that means that people can wear masks indoors, outdoors, anything. I mean, just it's suspended, right? Everybody's on their own. Is that
Right,
correct?
except Peter, there's a difference between outdoors and indoors. And we're going to, once we make this decision in the outdoor setting, the next question we'll get from every retailer and restaurant is, what about indoors?
Well,
and-
does a mask ordinance just talk to outdoors?
Correct. And town facilities, right? So the guidance that we have been giving folks and that we have committed to for our own buildings is that when you were in a building, when you're indoors, you should put a mask on unless you know that everybody you are with is vaccinated. So your meetings, for example.
What action by this board involves indoor, other than the one that talks about no more than 10 people?
Nothing.
So this board has taken no action that can be continued or
let me-
suspended relative to indoors.
Let me pull the ordinance out, Peter. I've got to look at it again.
No, I don't.
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted to talk about the details of the ordinance, so I wasn't prepped. I hadn't reviewed it again.
I'm just trying to understand what a vote to suspend the mask ordinance implies or does.
Right, all it says is members of the public must wear face masks while using public sidewalks, other pedestrian ways, public recreation areas, and other public property within the town of Hanover where maintaining adequate social or physical distancing is not possible due to pedestrian congestion. Members of the public are strongly urged to wear face masks when attending social gatherings, including individuals outside their immediate family. It also applies to all businesses, healthcare facilities, and any other establishment, including government facilities, as allowed under orders by the state of New Hampshire. And again, that's the emergency order, which I think the governor may in fact lift, which are open to the public, shall require all those entering the business, including without limitation, any outdoor area where business of any sort is conducted or work site, to wear a mask, to wear a mouth and nose covering mask, and may refuse entry and service to anyone who refuses to wear a mask. So the guidance that we're giving the restaurants and retailers who are anxious now, because the governor may lift the emergency order, is the guidance that we've received from the Division of Public Health within New Hampshire Health and Human Services, and which is published on the state COVID webpage, says anybody who's vaccinated doesn't need to wear a mask except when they are inside and don't know the vaccination status of the people they are with. Individuals who are not vaccinated should wear masks outdoors and indoors.
Okay, so our action tonight, if we, I don't remember whether there was a second to the motion, but if we move to suspend our mask ordinance, then that would eliminate the requirement to wear masks outside effective that date. And then the internal wearing masks indoors would be driven by the governor's orders,
Or an individual business owner's decision about what they want to require of anybody entering their business.
Okay, so I guess I can live with that. We just want to be clear what our authority is and where we've exercised that authority and where we haven't.
Right.
Okay, so did I make a motion? I can't remember.
Yeah, you moved to suspend ordinance number 39, which is the emergency mask ordinance related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the reason I suggest you suspend as opposed to rescind is we may need to reinvoke it again if things get
effective a certain date, effective
June 14th, Monday, June 14th.
Was there a second to that motion? Yes, there was. Okay, so any further discussion on that motion? Going once, going twice. All those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb,
Nancy Carter, yes.
Austrasius, yes.
Okay, so I guess any other, I guess that kind of maybe settles that one for the moment anyway. Okay, thank you for all the education, and Julia, again, just we know how hard you all have worked. And I know, and I can certainly appreciate how you don't want to see it. You want us to get across the goal line. You don't want us to stumble on the 90th yard line here. Okay, so any more discussion on COVID-19? If not, appointments, planning board.
We have a delightful additional candidate for an alternate on the planning board, Catherine Rika, and she has been interviewed. We've attached her CV to your packet. And she would join as the third alternate. That you just appointed 2 new alternates. This would be a third alternate to be appointed to the planning board.
and she's here with us live on as a participant.
That's right.
Welcome, Catherine.
Nancy, I think it's appropriate you make this appointment, or you make this.
Yes,
motion.
I very enthusiastically make the appointment, and note that the other 2 that we approved were male, so I was getting a little bit anxious, aware, concerned, and I'm delighted that Catherine will be joining us.
Excellent. I'll second that motion. Further discussion? I move that motion without the editorial. All those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Austrasius, yes.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for serving. The next order of business is approval of the minutes of May 17. I had one very brief addition, which is at the bottom of page 1, one paragraph up. It says Chair Christie noted. On the last line, it says be an opportunity to start a process now and continue it in other bridge projects, not just these 3 bridges. So
Or other bridge projects.
I
Okay.
put the word bridge.
Okay. Gotcha.
Any other additions, corrections, deletions? I move these minutes with that one change.
Bill Garrity, I'll second.
Other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
And I'm gonna Austrasius abstain.
Okay. So administrative reports, Julia.
Peter, you asked me to give you an update on summer schedule. What's
Yep.
coming up for the board? What's in the queue, essentially? The rental housing ordinance, we have a draft ordinance, which the staff has spent a lot of time working on over the last year plus. It's now with Laura Spector Morgan for legal review. And so I think Rob Hausman is thinking that this is going to be an August or early September job for the select board to take a look at. My guess is that the way he might want to proceed with this is that we'd start with a work session, because it's fairly comprehensive and it addresses not just rental housing inspection, but it also, we're still on hold with the short-term rental administration piece of this. And so start with a work session to sort of bring the community up to speed with where we are, and then move to a public hearing. So that's essentially done, but it's always helpful to have the attorney tell you, yes, you can do that, or no, you can't do that under state law. And that's what Laura's doing now.
Is there any reason we can't bring that forward to July or August?
I'll check with Rob. It's in Laura's in basket. Peter, I know she started the review. I just haven't had a chance to get a total calendar update from Rob on this.
Okay, so I would just encourage bringing it. This has been on the table for a while. And I think it's just, we should put some energy behind it. No, not there hasn't been energy, but we should just, wherever we can accelerate this, we should. So anyway, okay, so what else is on the ticket?
So dog ordinance, I'm still working. It's just been, I just haven't had much bandwidth, but I have gotten, I called the dog ordinances as other municipalities have adopted, because I was looking for something that was not overly detailed, and have a really good sample from the town of Exeter. So I'm working now with Laura Spector Morgan to take a look at that, and with Charlie Dennis to make sure that this is something police department can manage the enforcement of, or the response to an enforcement of, and then hope to bring that to you for initial review at your next meeting, which is on the 21st.
Okay.
May or may not be virtual, maybe in person, but a drafty draft.
And can we also get the state RSA or whatever it is on that?
I'll also, yes, Athos,
And as much background material as we
Yep.
can get.
It's interesting. There are two types of dog ordinances out there that communities have adopted. Some literally just reference the state statute, 2 paragraphs. But the state statute doesn't require leashes. State statute says the dog has to be under your control. Control is loosely defined as they need to stop doing what they're doing when you don't want them to do it by listening to their parent. Other statutes other ordinances are much more complex. And so my hunch is we want to err on the side of being less complex, but what I'm going to do when I send you the packet is NHMA has done a really good 2-page piece on what's in statute, so that everybody knows what the statute says and interprets the statute basically, and that recommends an approach for referencing the statute in an ordinance. So that you'll get that as part of your information packet when we meet on the 21st. Also, at your second meeting in July, which I believe is the 19th, we've got to confirm the schedule with the board, because that would be the first meeting after town meeting. And typically that's your organizational meeting when you sort of, launch your coming fiscal year's board chairmanship and those sorts of things. Carolyn Radish made a presentation to staff today, included Joanna taking a look at the sidewalk and pedestrian plan for the area around the green. And we were thinking about having Carolyn come and do a presentation to the select board about our thinking relative to the sidewalk improvements and bicycle improvements at your second meeting in July. That would lead to the sort of more comprehensive community planning process, and ultimately the town would then look to figure out how to fund our piece of this work in the coming year's budget.
Okay.
So that's really what's in your short-term, on your short-term horizon, Peter, for the rest of June and July.
Okay. Any questions about that or comments about that, board? Julie, when do we sign up for the various presentations at town meeting?
At your next meeting on the 21st.
Okay.
So, be thinking about what you want to speak to.
Okay. And select board reports. Peter, Christie, none. Bill?
Bill Garrity, nothing to report.
The Hanover Bike Walk Committee will be meeting on Thursday at 4:30. All are welcome to attend. That's all I have to report.
Athos?
Nothing to report.
Nancy?
The planning board is at their next meeting, July 6th, going to be starting to talk with an individual who is going to help us with our long-term planning with our 10-year, our new 10-year plan, getting that process started.
So wait a minute. So it's a master plan for the town, and our proposals were received, and
Correct.
what firm was selected?
I don't know yet. Rob Hausman has not told us. He thinks that by July 5, the process will be sufficiently done so that we can think about meeting that person by then, within 3 weeks.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I should mention that there'll be a project for the Brissette Fund, I think, coming up that I'll be recommending. I think we want to wait till after town meeting and we get the funding authorization, the general funding authorization for Brissette Fund. But I think this will be a perfect example of a project that comes up sort of quickly and is beyond the reach of the Conservation Commission, but is a worthy project. We're talking $10,000 to do some restoration on Tunis Brook. And but I'll be bringing that up after town meeting when we actually have authorization to direct some of that spending. Okay, any other administrative reports? Select board reports, any other business? So there's been a request for a non-public session to discuss items pursuant to RSA 91A32C and E. Peter Christie, yes.
Bill Garrity, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Nancy Carter, yes.
Strauss, yes.
All right, we are in non-public session. See you in a few seconds.